Hello everyone. So in this video, I want to cover one of the eras in American history that I believe is the most transformative eras in American history. If you take out World War II, American Revolution, Civil War, the Industrial Revolution is the most important, most transformative era in American history. It shaped modern America. It ushered the United States that we understand today as the United States. And there are so many things around the history of the Industrial Revolution that are very important, very relevant, very fascinating. And let me get to it, okay? Let's get started. All right, so the Industrial Revolution happens post Civil War around 1865, 1870 to around the 1910s, 1915, right? And is this huge transformation from an agrarian society to an industrial society, right? But it's not just an industrial society, right? It's more of a industrial economy, industrial way of life. It's gonna transform everything that we do, and it's gonna be very, very, very revolutionary, right? In a way that is very difficult for us to understand how revolutionary and how life changing these changes were, right? So it happens because of a combination of factors, mainly technological advancements like mass production and the expansion of the railroad and government stimulation, right? So what are some of these technological advancements, right? More than anything is going to be, again, number one, the railroad. Right now, I know it's very difficult for us to grasp the concept of how transformative the railroad was because we live in the present and the railroad is almost obsolete to some of us, or like we don't see its significance in the present day anymore. However, the railroad was very important. You need to understand that there were no roads back in the day, at least not in the way that we understand them today. Okay, so there is no real ways out of your city without a railroad, right? So the railroad facilitates the idea of transportation, but also communication, right? So very significantly, what happened with the railroad is that now we're able to connect the entire country together, right? But that is not enough to create an industrial revolution. What is gonna have to happen is number two is gonna be mass production, all right? So the idea of mass production is very important, right? Because we used to rely on craftsmen, right? Meaning people who were specialized on one craft or one or were very good at, for example, like shoemaking, right? Artisans, right? Or people who build clothes, right? Carpenters, right? These people are the people who made all the goods, right? Now, mass production changes everything, right? Because now we don't need this artisans, this craftsmen to create these articles. So the combination of these two, along with government stimulation, is what's going to be kind of like the formula for a very good industrial revolution, right? So when you think about it, governments had a very hands-off approach in the sense that there were not a lot of regulations, and this allowed a lot of corporations to grow and allowed it to have a lot of investment, a lot of money involved in this, right? So the combination of these two, along with government stimulation, is what's going to create this huge industrial revolution, right? So what are the outcomes coming out of the industrial revolution, right? Why do I call it so revolutionary? Okay, so one of the main ones is, luxury is being transformed into necessities. Okay, and what I mean by this is that back in the day, some articles had very limited access, whether because they could only be manufactured in certain places or because they were very expensive. Okay, now the industrial revolution really transformed this in the idea that now a lot of these things are accessible to everyone across the nation. Okay. Also, the idea that these articles were being very cheap, right? They used to, be very expensive, but now are very affordable. Okay, so think about it like this, right? What does it mean to have luxuries being transformed into necessities? Well, today, for example, we have laptops, cell phones, the internet. These things today are considered necessities, right? But 20, 30 years ago, these were considered luxuries. And the reason today they're considered necessities is because they've become more affordable, right? They're more widespread available, right? But think about it in this and put it, extrapolate it into the early 1900s and late 1800s. Okay, a lot of articles that used to be very expensive, now they're becoming very cheap. All right, now these things, they're not as good in quality, but everyone has access to them, right? We are basically expanding the availability of these things. Okay, so another important outcome coming out of the industrial revolution is basically the industrialization and urbanization of the north, right? Well, now with the huge impact of the Industrial Revolution, a lot of people from the south began moving into the north, right? Because you need to think about it like this. In the south, farming wasn't profitable anymore, right? So even if you were one of those self-sufficient farmers who never relied on slavery, still it was better for you to move to the north because you could get a job in these factories in what was called this unskilled labors, right? So you didn't need to have a craft, you didn't need to be an artisan, you didn't need to have a lot of time, you know, studying anything. So in general, you didn't need to be educated, all right? So a lot of people from the south began moving to the north to take these jobs in these factories, right? But not only people from the south, there was also people from Europe. I believe between the 1870s and 1920s, we had about 20 million people coming from Europe into the US to the northern cities to work in these factories, right? Because they were creating a lot of job opportunities. Okay, so these job opportunities did not require any skill. Okay, so we saw the huge migration to the north, in which is going to make the north way more urbanized, but also more industrial, right? Now, speaking of the unskilled labor, that is the other very significant outcome coming out of the Industrial Revolution, right? Because now it's going to change the way we work, right? The way we understand the idea of working for wages was something that it wasn't created during the Industrial Revolution, but it was kind of like the standard was made during that time. All right. So now most people work in factories. Now most people are not self-sufficient farmers, right? It's difficult to understand today that during the 1800s, most Americans, at least in the South, were very self-sufficient, right? They, did not rely on anyone else. They had this very Jeffersonian idea of self-reliant, self-sufficient, without any government interference. Well, now most people work in factories, right? Now most people work for wages. Okay, so this is this big change in the way that we understand working today, right? Because I'm assuming most of us have a job in the sense that we work for wages. Okay, but the way it was understood during the Industrial Revolution is that there's really no loss for any of this, right? So it created a lot of problems. Okay, so this idea of the unskilled labor and you know industrialization of the North is going to be very problematic for different reasons, right? And one is the idea of the unskilled labor because although you can get a lot of jobs or not a lot of jobs, but you can get a very easy job, right? Because these works were easy, right? Anyone could do them. At the same time, there are no laws. So they could really fire you for any reason, but also that means that there's no safety standards. Okay, so that also means that there's no such thing as minimum wage. There's also no such thing as, you know, labor laws. So it's becoming very problematic, right? A lot of people flock to these jobs, but a lot of people are very unprotected, okay, from any of these safety standards or abusive business practices. So I believe between these times, you had close to 20 to 25,000 deaths related to the job, right? Because there's no safety standards, right? They could also fire you for whatever reason. Okay, so it's creating this kind of like, I don't want to exactly call it a humanitarian crisis, but it's very close to it, right? In the sense that there are no laws either, all right? Uh, the government is kind of taking a very hands-off approach, but at the same time, the government is not ready for this big change. The change from agrarian to industrial is very, very big, very radical, right? So the government, the politics of the time are not ready for these changes, right? So the government is not passing any laws protecting employees. They're not passing any laws protecting or at least limiting the power of these businesses against the people. So it's creating this huge problems in the north because think about it, right? Yes, you can all get jobs because the work is easy, it's unskilled labor. But at the same time, you have no protection from the government or from any corporations that they're not gonna fire you tomorrow because they just feel like it, right? So a lot of the working conditions were pretty horrible, right? And this is one of the reasons also why back in the day, you also have children working, right? Working in mines, particularly. A lot of, to begin with, there's no laws against it, all right? So because there's no laws against it, it's creating this problem that, we have this, okay? So you also have a lot of families that have to work a lot together to make ends meet, right? Because they're not making a lot of money. So I need me and my entire family to be working in order to make ends meet. And if that means also my children working, then otherwise we cannot make ends meet, right? So this is what I mean by creating this humanitarian crisis. And fortunately, eventually, labor laws were passed, but also child labor laws were passed to, avoid this type of problem from happening. So the change came in the form of trade unions, right? So I don't want to make this video too much about the trade unions, right? But in general, what happened is called collective bargaining. Okay, so the idea is this, okay? At first, the government is not making those changes, so the people themselves are organizing and demanding better working conditions. However, if it's only me who demands the working conditions, I may not be getting a better job, right? However, if I organize with the rest of the people from the same industry, and then I combine it with other people from other industries and other people from other industries, right? And we all together begin organizing and demand better wages, minimum wage, safety conditions. We start making those demands, and through the power of all of us together, combined, demanding these things, we achieve the first changes, right? Eventually, the government is going to begin adopting those changes because of public pressure, because they understood that this is, the better way to work in the society. But well, it was a slow change, right? At first, it had to be the people that made those changes, right? And at first, it was very difficult because, as you can imagine, corporations didn't want these things, right? They were kind of like trying their best to try to, stop these unions, right? And there's a lot of things that happen, right? But, little by little, the change was made, right? Because if you think about it, um, I don't want to sound too like anything, right? But the working conditions that we get are mostly because the government is forcing corporations to give them to us, right? So think about it like this: minimum wage, safety standards, overtime, all those things, you know, is not like corporations want to pay those things. They are required, they're mandated by law that they need to do these things, right? Think about it. Before they didn't do that, if they did not have a law that mandated that they need to pay a certain minimum wage, that they need to have certain, safety standards, that they need to have certain conditions such as overtime and things like that, it is my belief that they wouldn't give us those conditions, right? It had to be through this unions and eventually through the government, right? So this is the reason why we celebrate Labor Day, right? Because without it, without this work from the unions and eventually that were adapted to be made into laws, we wouldn't have these working conditions that we have today. Okay, and so when people talk about history repeating itself, the Industrial Revolution is a great example of this, right? Because it echoes a lot of what is happening today in modern times, right? Because just like in the early 1900s, a lot of artisans or craftsmen or different trades and professions were replaced with unskilled laborers. Today's happening something very similar with modernization, with automation, with robots, with AI. A lot of professions and employments are being eliminated and replaced with this new technology, right? But just like it happened in those times, some employments are or professions and employments are getting eliminated, but new ones are being created. All right. As technology developed, more and different employments were created, and the people that were able to adapt to them better are the people that benefited the most from them. All right. So here is happening the same thing. I remember 20, 30 years ago, we had some professions or some employments that do not exist anymore in today's times. All right. If you're old enough, like I am, you remember people or some professions that you just don't see anymore, right? Because technology has replaced them. And so I think one of the important lessons to learn out of all of this is learn to adapt and try to not reject change in technology because it's unstoppable, right? We really can't stop those things. The best thing to do is to adapt, right? So one of the things I usually like to tell my students is that you need to plan accordingly, right? Where are the trends taking you? Because what happens is that some people choose some careers or some professions, and those careers really may not have a bright future, right? Because technology, modernization, automation. So we need to be very aware of what do we want to do. how can we adapt for the changing times, right? So just like it happened during those times, people who were able to adapt, people who were able to kind of like accept the change and move forward with it, we need to do the same time, the same thing, today, right? Especially the younger generations, right? Um, because you need to choose the right career path, right? Or hone your skills in the right direction, that integrates this new idea of technology, modernization, automation, and just understand that some employments may not be there in 5 years, in 10 years, because this is the way it's always been. Technology advances, and we need to learn to adapt to these things. Okay, and so all the revolutionary changes that are coming to politics, to society, to economy, to a way of life, to the way we work, the way we live, to luxuries being transformed into necessities, to becoming a world nation. All of this is like it's a a result of the industrial revolution, right? So it is very hard to quantify how significant these events were to our life, right? They were truly transformative in ways that we is very difficult for us to understand, particularly because they happen so fast, right? And all of this is also going to lead us to what is called the Gilded Age, right? This idea of the haves versus the have-nots. Your Carnegies, your Rockefellers, your uber wealthy versus your extremely poor, right? This massive divide between America is also a consequence of the Industrial Revolution. I'll talk about it in a different lecture, but for now, this will have for all day. Let me know what you all think, and I'll be around. Okay, see y'all.